Mrs. Wolfe from our Half Acre Homestead. Today I am replanting or transplanting some of my tomato plants that I started from seed. Now, last year I did soil blocks and they worked really well. But this year I'm doing a repurpose project rather than having plastic trays and that I bought at the dollar store and going all through that. I had saved these mushroom containers because I had mushrooms were on sale and I bought a whole bunch of them. And I had planted tomatoes in them. Now, I ended up with like 10 of these things, and there's like 8 in each one. And I'm just not going to go out and buy a whole bunch of seed cells. So what I'm doing is, everybody seems to be on the paper pot kick this year. And so I thought, well, I'll just make some paper pots. So in order to do that, I've just taken some flyers, because like I said, this is all about repurpose and recycle. And I've cut the flyers in half. So I've got about, I don't know, they're about 6 to 8 inches. And I folded about 2.5 inches up, maybe even close to 3. And I've got Howie's butane can here. Now, I don't have a lot of canned stuff in my pantry because most of my canned stuff is home canned. And what cans I do are big. So I'm using Howie's butane can here because it's the size I want for a seed pot. So what I'm doing is I'm just folding it up about 3 inches, and I'm taking the butane can. Oh, and I'm going to fold this corner in, just like that. I watched Autumn Prepper do some really cool ones. She did some origami ones and some can ones, and this is where I kind of got the idea. So I'm just going to put the edge of the can on the double thick paper because we don't want the edge to rip, but we want the bottom to be strong, okay? Because it's going to get wet, right? So I'm just rolling this up. Now I like these paper pots fairly deep, and the reason I have the fold here is that when I get to the edge where I'm going to fold it under, I do it with this part first because that's the weakest part, and you want everything else folded in on it. Now trust me, I've been at this for about a half an hour figuring out the best way to do this. And I just do this. There we go. Now, the reason I like my pots fairly deep is because tomato plants are funny. They have these wee tiny hairs all up their stem, and every one of those hairs has a potential to be a root. And when you first plant your seedlings, they start to get quite leggy. And of course my paper pot's going to come apart and make a liar out of me. Well, I'm just going to have to re-roll it, aren't I? Anyway, your first seedlings have a tendency to get quite long. And because they have the potential to have every one of those hairs turn into a root, you can bury them very deep. You can bury the stems really deep, almost up to the first leaves. And what that will do is that will give you a better root system for later on. Another thing I like about this butane can, it has an indented bottom so that when I do this, it'll sit flat because the paper's coming up in the bottom. So what I do is I take just a pinch, a 2-finger pinch of soil, and I set my plant right down in there so that it's almost, the leaves are almost level with the edge of the paper. And then I just start filling it with good all-around organic potting soil. Now when I first planted these, because I didn't poke holes in the bottom, I put a bunch of broken eggshells in the bottom, and that gave it quite a bit of nutrients. And I just have a plastic cookie tray here. Now, as you can see, these first ones I didn't plant as deep, and they're kind of leaning, but these ones are going to be nice and sturdy. Not that these won't be sturdy. I'll probably repot these. folks, while I have the pot here, an empty pot, the last time I planted green onions, it didn't work. When I planted the cuttings from my green onions, they didn't work because I cut them too short. But look at this. When I cooked the other day, I just stuck these in a little jar of water, and they're already starting to grow little green sprouts. So I'm just going to stick them in the ground here, or in this little pot. Transfer this inside another one for drainage. That should work. So I'll update you on these onions another day, but this is just a couple of days ago that I actually cut these off, and look, I got little green sprouts. Cool. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, mushroom tubs and newspaper. Reduce, repurpose, and recycle. Gotta love it.